Hey guys, and welcome to Unit 6, Part 2 of your video notes. Today we're going to talk about motor development in infants as well as some of Jean Piaget's theories on development as well. Our first topic is motor development with infants. And as you guys see right here at the bottom, you have 4 different children at different parts of life. Experience doesn't really have anything to do with the sequence of it, but what we know is right around 6 months, children start to sit independently, and this is a golden age because besides just sitting, they can't move anywhere. Next is crawling, right around 8 to 9 months, and then right around 12 months, infants tend to start walking, and then 15 months, they're walking purely independent. And this has been pretty cool to see with Hudson, and he pretty much hit these milestones right on the dot. He was sitting unsupported at 6 months. He was crawling closer to the 9-month mark. He took a couple steps the month before his 1-year birthday, but really the month after, he fully started to walk, and right now he's walking purely independently at 15 months old, which is pretty cool. And every baby's different, so you might see these things earlier or a little bit later, really just how each child develops. Maturation and infant memory is pretty wild to think about. If you think of your first memory, your earliest memory, you can't think of most people. It's a very rare thing, but most people can only remember something right around 3 to 4 years old. And Bauer, not me, in 2002, I was only 12 then, have found that right around the 3.5 on average year-olds are when they start to get a conscious memory. However, right around the 6 month to 8 to 9 months, infants start to get a sense of self. They get to see themselves in the mirror and they're like, oh my gosh, what is that? Now when Hudson sees himself in his mirror or in a mirror, he's very excited and then taps his chest and says, me. Cognitive development, this is where we start to see things making sense. And we're going to talk more about Piaget in a few minutes, but he believed that behind intellectual development was biological development. And cognitive development is shaped by errors we make. So if you guys look at the bottom, you see a little girl that's playing on a little toy that has a little slide, and she's trying to slide on it, and she's like, this isn't working. And then you see that little boy trying to set on a miniature car, and it's not working again. So these errors allow them to figure out, hey, this doesn't work or this does work. Schemas are concepts or frameworks or mental molds that we put into experiences, and it helps us organize and interpret information. So if you guys look at the example, 2-year-old Gabriella has learned a schema for cow from her picture book. She sees a moose but calls it a cow because she sees it has a large body, it's large, it has brown on it, 4 legs, ears, but she's like, no, it's a moose. Mom, Dad knows it's a moose. And then she figures out, okay, this is a moose. She's learning what it is. And now she figures out mommy moose, baby moose. And that's kind of how we get learning. And then we have assimilation and accommodation. And these are very important words. The process of assimilation involves incorporating new experiences into our already current understanding or schema. And then the process of adjusting a schema or modifying is called an accommodation. And the easiest way for me, at least, to remember this is with accommodation. Since I used to teach students with special needs, if they had an IEP or a 504, which is an individualized plan for them, they would get, depending on the severity, an accommodation. We had to modify something for education. So a student could have had extended time on assignment or seating closer to the front or the back, depending on the student. So it's modifying something going on. And then here's where we really get into Piaget's theories. And these are super, super important. You need to know these for sure. And really just like the basics of the description. So, birth to 2 years, sensory motor, all the experiences around, senses, looking, touching, all of that. We see object permanence, which we'll go into more on the next slide. From 2 to about 6 to 7, so you're like kindergarten, first grade, is a pre-operational stage, where everything has a word and image and everything's logical. There's reasoning behind stuff. 7 to 11 years old is concrete operational. You're thinking logically, concrete. You're looking at analogies and getting difficult concepts. And then 12 to adulthood is your formal operational, more of your abstract thinking, reasoning, really going above and beyond. So sensory motor stage is where babies start looking at the world through touch. Tons of things get put into their mouth, grasping. However, children under 6 months of age do not grasp object permanence. So an object is permanent no matter if it goes under. So if you guys look at this little example, there's a little pink toy. Someone puts a blanket over it. If the baby's 6 months, they'd be like, oh my God, it's gone. But since she's older, she's like, oh yay, look, it's right here. This is why when you guys play peekaboo with a little kid, when you hide behind your hands, you're gone. You're gone. But as they get older, they just think it's funny because you're like, hey, dumb, you're right there. A criticism, though, is Piaget believed that children in the sensory motor stage could not think, and that way they don't have any abstract concepts or ideas. So this is something that they still had to look into. However, recent research has shown that in the sensory motor stage, children can still think and count. And this is more for the older children. Children understand the basic laws of physics. They are amazed at how a ball can stop in midair or disappear. So like, oh wow, we can stop it or hide it behind our back. Another criticism, children can also count. And this is more so for the slightly older children, the children closer to the age of 2, like 18 months to 2 years old. Pre-operational stage, this is from 2 to 6 to 7 years old, and they can perform some tasks, but not super, super difficult ones. This is where a child learns to use language, but does not comprehend like difficult operations or concrete logic. Criticism showed that children as young as 3 years of age are able to operations. When shown a model of a dog's hiding place behind the couch, a 2.5-year-old could not locate the stuffed dog, but a 3-year-old could. Egocentrism. Piaget concluded that preschool children are egocentric. They cannot perceive things from another point of view. Egocentric. They're very to themselves. The whole world's about them. They cannot figure it out. When asked to show her picture to mommy, 2-year-old Gabriella holds a picture facing her own eyes, thinking that the mom could see it. And we see this all the time with little kids. Theory of mind is when, especially like preschool age, even though they're still a little bit egocentric, they're still developing the ability to understand another's mental state. This is why, like when there's temper tantrums or disagreements, you have to talk children through it so they understand, like, you punched me, this hurt, you would not like this if it happened to you. Concrete operational stage, and this is right around the age of 6 to 7 to about 11 years old, and they grasp conservation problems, that if you have 16 ounces of water, if you split it into a couple different other sized containers, it still totals 16 ounces. Children in this stage are also able to transform mathematical functions. They can figure out that 4 plus 8 is 12, but then also realize 12 minus 4 is 8, and it's very easy. Whereas in the previous stage, in the pre-operational stage, that's a more difficult task. And think about yourselves in elementary school. When you were younger, way more difficult to do math problems like 1st, 2nd, 3rd grade, but by middle school, you were doing these like piece of cake. And then formal operational, around age 12, our reasoning ability expands. We can think concrete and abstract. We can use symbols, and this is all formal operational, and it goes through adulthood. If John is in school, Mary's in school. John is in school, what can you say about Mary? You're thinking very abstractly. She might not be in school. She could be sick that day. And then just reflecting on Piaget's theories, they have been influenced globally, validating a number of ideas regarding growth and development. However, in today's research, development is a continuous process. Children express their mental abilities and operations at an earlier age, and formal logic is a smaller part of cognition. So, more recent research and what we are finding out today, it's more continuous. It's not you turn 2, you're out of sensory motor stage, you're now in pre-operational. No, some children might be in a stage longer or shorter. Again, these are just averages. And that's just how it goes. So I hope you guys have a great day, and I will see you all later. Bye.